Welcome to the Leading the Way podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Maza Zimmerman. Sitting across from me is J. Alvarado.
And on this show, we look at life through the lens of leadership. This is a leadership podcast for all walks of life, not just management professionals, but everybody that can use this in their everyday lives, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So welcome, to our very first episode. I'm still looking at the camera. I'm going to look at you.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to welcome you to the first episode. Okay. So this show, we talk about leadership and we discuss our experiences. We both have, combined, we have over 40 years experience in management. We come from different walks of life. We're both people of color. I may not look like it, but I am. So we discuss, the experiences we've had, the techniques and the skill set that we've developed over years of being managers or group leaders, being, with people. We're also both parents, and that plays into it. And so we discuss techniques and how you can use it in your everyday life or professional life.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, like you said, this is a podcast for everyone.
Right.
We're both leaders in its own right, but our theme is looking at life through the lens of leadership. And so more than anything else, it's a life podcast.
Right.
And the leadership just is the lens that we're looking at it through. But this is a podcast that everyone can, and anyone and everyone can learn from, can listen to. And so we look forward to really just building an audience that can, go on this journey with us from day one all the way to day 5,300,000.
Yeah. So for our very first episode, I guess, we're going to, we'll briefly touch on what the show is about and what, you can expect to hear or see in the future. But before that, maybe briefly describe who we are. I mean, we'll go into depth in another episode about our backgrounds and all that stuff, but who's everyone listening to?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start.
Okay.
Again, my name is Maza Zimmerman. It's more like an interview. Born and raised in LA. Most of my life, all of my life, I've been a musician. I've been either in a choir, in front of a choir. I don't know what that sound was.
It didn't pick it up. It's not gonna pick it up.
In a choir, in front of a choir, singing solo. I mean, playing trumpet for first, I don't know how many years of my life. I've always been a musician. And I didn't really get into a leadership position outside of being a conductor until years later in my 20s, when I just kind of took a pivot and went into the restaurant industry. But it has been music my entire life. I will always be a musician in some capacity. It's one of my loves.
That wasn't brief.
That wasn't brief. I know. That was
okay.
That was the whole thing. You go ahead and give a not so brief background of who you are and make it at least 5 minutes like mine was.
Okay. All right. So I've been in management since the late 90s, worked in many different fields. I've worked in the restaurant business. I owned a restaurant for many, many years. I've worked in the film industry. I've worked in the music industry for a little bit. I'm also a musician. And I am currently a high school teacher where a public high school teacher in Los Angeles. I teach graphic design and filmmaking.
I forgot you were a musician or are a musician.
Yeah.
What instrument?
So guitar primarily, but I also play bass, drums, and I also sing.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there we go. So again, I'm for those of you that didn't hear anything I just said.
Right.
That's awesome. And so I think before we go into, I know we talked about we wanted to go over passion and kind of how to find that, really just how to get started. When you're how to navigate, how to kind of find your own way. How we've kind of found our own way, how we kind of crossed paths and started this journey together. And so I think we always talk about passion. We always talk about purpose, and there has to be the prerequisite of that is starting something, whether that be starting in an industry, waking up. You got to start something before you can find the passion, before you can find your purpose. You have to be doing something.
Right.
And so,
because some people are born to it, just kind of natural leaders. Other people are forced into that sort of position. And so what do you do, right? What are the kind of skills or things that you need, or personality that you need to be successful in something like that?
yeah. And even those that are born into it, like you can say I was born into music, but I didn't pop out the womb with a little trumpet, tiny trumpet in my hand.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't, I still had to do it. At some point, I made a decision to play trumpet, whether that was influence from my parents, my grandmother, somewhere. I made a conscious decision to play trumpet. And out of that birthed this passion for music that I had. But I had to actively do something to discover what that passion was.
So that makes me wonder, along your, let's say, career as a musician, learning and studying, getting better, was that more something that you felt, or something that you did more on your own, or did you have any guidance or help along the way?
So I came from a musical family, and so I don't want to say I didn't have a choice, but
right,
I
it was in your blood.
it was kind of in my blood. My grandmother is a piano teacher. My uncle is a violinist. My brother, who's younger, but my brother is also a vocalist. And so I had music around me.
Yeah.
And so when the opportunity came to play in the band in the 5th grade, bring that home, and it was, do that. Because we've all seen the success and what can come out of that. And so I had a choice, but I didn't have a choice. And I liked it, and I loved doing it. So it wasn't anything that was like, I'm being forced to do this, because I liked it. I didn't have a scope of what my career, I'm only in the 5th grade, right? I'm 11, 12, whatever. So I didn't necessarily have that, but I enjoyed doing it. And so for me, it's always been, do what makes you happy. And out of that will birth the rest.
Right.
I mean, for you said you started leadership you were what, 9, 10? You were young when you kind of got into leadership. You've always kind of seen yourself as a leader.
Yeah, it was always within my group of friends. I was always kind of like the leader of the group. I made all the decisions, and they always kind of, came to me for guidance.
Yeah.
Not always a good thing. Sometimes I was a bad influence, but that's always been the case with me. I just kind of naturally gravitated towards being the leader of a group. I've always been, someone who's goes out of their way to be friendly and nice to everyone.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just a combination of a lot of things in my background, but I've always kind of gravitated towards that. And then, you were talking about music. This might be off tangent, but I also came from a family of musicians, and that's, I think, where it comes from. So both of my older brothers are musicians, and one of them gave me a guitar for my 8th birthday, and that was it. I was hooked, playing.
Now, you say you've always kind of been a leader, and I think sometimes for a person who's already an adult and they hear stories of, I got started when I was 4, when I was 5, when I was 6.
Yeah.
And from the perspective of the adult, that it can be a bit intimidating. Like, wow, you've been doing this since you were, like, I have a friend of mine who's in the ministry, and he's been, doing that since he was like 9 years old. And I'm like, you've been leading.
Yeah.
But what does that, when you were younger, because now knowing what leadership is and what that looks like, feels like, sounds like, but when you're, say, 10,
right,
were you consciously seeing yourself as a leader, or were you just, I just have friends and I'm not even aware that I'm the one making the decisions? Like, was it a conscious thing, or did you kind of, like, through time later on says, well, that's what I was back then. I was the leader of the group. But when you're 10, you just want the peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the crust cut. Like, did you recognize that I am a leader at a very young age?
I was always kind of conscious about it, and it always, like, it's not something I really thought about. It just, that felt natural. Like, of course I'm going to lead the group here. Like, it wasn't something I thought about, I I should really talk to my friends about doing this other stuff. No, it was just kind of like, hey, come on, guys, let's do this, and everybody just kind of like went along with it. But I knew full well what was going on at the time. I think the difference now is, someone who's just going into a sort of leadership role, there are a lot of mistakes, I would say, that I made along the way. And if anything, that's what this show is about. Hey, listen to our experiences and try to learn something from it. Because what I've learned over time is, what I didn't realize at the time being so young, is that there's a definite power of influence that you have. And as a young person, you don't necessarily feel responsible for the consequences of your actions and choices. And, so a lot of times I made the wrong call and I led some people astray, and, not always, but, it happens, and you don't really think about the power you have over someone. And that's something that, I had to come to learn when it changed from just being the leadership in my friend group to, a professional in a career where I'm in charge of people, where I really had to step back and like, okay, I got to be careful, like I've seen you with people, and you're very careful in how you treat everyone and what you say. And, we've talked about it to where, you need to be a good example for them, because,
Absolutely.
An underhanded or sleazy boss will breed an environment where everyone else is going to, be cheating and lying and stealing. And, so there's a power there that you have to kind of nurture and take care of, that I didn't realize as a young person.
Absolutely. And I always want to make sure, you're not looking at, either one of us, you're not looking at a finished product.
Right.
Like this is not what it should be, and mirror this going on. Like you're coming in on a journey, because leadership, like life, is a journey. And I've learned how to treat people and how to communicate effectively through mistakes that I've made in the past, because I wasn't as reflective as I was back then as I am now. I didn't necessarily think about everything that I said and say, well, how can I say that better? How can I steer this conversation? How can I be more effective in my communication? I remember one time I was leading a choir at my church, and we were doing a concert. We used to do concerts about once a year, maybe twice a year. And I was really in my confidence bag, in my arrogance bag, and I kind of knew it all, and I wasn't reflecting on what I said. And at the time, my mom was actually singing in the choir. And so rehearsal was starting, and I was big on being punctual, on time. So rehearsal is downbeat, and I learned it from being in marching band. This is the downbeat. You're ready here to go. And I had a few people show up late. And I went off on this tangent during rehearsal and was like, I don't care what your excuse is. If rehearsal starts at 2, you better be here at 2:00,
right,
ready to sing. And I went off in front of the entire choir. After rehearsal, my mom pulls me aside. I think we were at home. And she was like, that was a little disrespectful what you said.
Yeah.
It was just you just did not care about whatever they had going on. There are much nicer ways that you can be effective without being mean. And I had to reflect, and when she first said it, I was like, I wouldn't be mean. They shouldn't be late. It's that simple.
Right.
And I had to think about it and let it marinate. And then it was yeah, that was actually wrong. And I came back the very next rehearsal, and I said, before we start and go with music, I want to talk about what's most important, and that's the respect level in this group. And I said some things the last rehearsal.
You said the right thing, but you said it the wrong way.
The extremely wrong delivery. My intentions were, we need to start on time, and the delivery was just way off. And I apologized in front of the whole group. That's right. That's part of leadership.
Yeah.
You've got to own up to it, because mistakes are going to happen. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to say it the wrong way, and you're going to possibly offend people.
And again, you're setting an example, right? So if you're big enough to be able to say, hey, you know what? I messed up. I admit it. It was my mistake.
Yeah.
Then you open the door for everybody else to be able to do that, instead of having to hide their mistakes and lie. Oh, no, I filed that, or no, I did that, when they didn't, because people are afraid of being looked down upon or retribution. But if you're leading by example and being, hey, look, we're all flawed. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's make it up. That's a big
There's
deal.
there's a lesson in all of it, right? When you have to look at the entire situation from the moment you made the mistake to the moment you reflected to the moment you realized that was a mistake to the
Right.
moment you went back and apologized. That's the example, and that's what leadership looks like.
Right.
It's not that, oh, he's a great leader or she's a great leader because they never make mistakes.
Right.
And they always get it
Right.
right. It's like, no, that's not what leadership looks like.
Yeah.
Leadership looks like humility.
Humility. Yeah.
Leadership looks like the person who reflected, realized they did something wrong, came back and fixed the problem.
Yeah.
That's what leadership looks like. And that's what the journey looks like.
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about finding your way, how do I do this? It's knowing and realizing it may take you 5 tries. It
Yeah.
may take you 5 tries, 4 different industries, and 5 different concepts.
Well, no, and I think that's the thing. I think at some point, you know, everyone in a kind of a leadership role, they have to ask themselves if it matters to them or if that position is right for them or that role. Because we both know people, and in some cases the same people, who are kind of power hungry and get a thrill off of that, authority, and they don't care about other people. It's all about a title or, to them. And that's not leadership, That's I don't know what you want to call that, but it's not leadership for sure.
It's authority.
Yeah, I mean it's throwing your weight around.
Yeah.
Whether that comes from insecurity in themselves or who knows what. But I think that is definitely for someone who is being either forced into a leadership role or deciding to take one. You really got to consider, okay, do I want to be a leader or do I just want power? And then you have to plan accordingly.
Yeah. I always say every business is the business of people.
Yeah.
And no matter what you're doing and how you're doing it, the only way to get what you need is someone or a group of people.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Whether you're in the tech industry, whether you're in the restaurant industry, whether you're in film, broadcasting, marketing, doesn't matter.
Right.
You're going to work with a group of people. And the more effective you are with communicating and inspiring and motivating or just plain working with other people. Some people are great communicators. They just don't know how to work with other people. They're just not. And it's one of the, to me, in the many jobs that I've had, it's one of the components that it's just missing in a lot of industries is people skills. And nowadays with cell phones and everything else at your fingertips, literally, it lacks even more.
It's tough. Yeah.
It's tough. It is.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately everybody now, I don't know, because of the, post-COVID, a lot of things changed and interactions changed. People were locked away for a long time. And sometimes it feels like they forgot how it is to interact with people, and I don't know. I think we all just need to, step back and think about it. When I think about how I talk to people, right, and not just career-wise, and we've talked about it before. We're both parents.
Yeah.
So I always try to put whoever I'm talking to in the shoes of one of my own kids, and how would I feel?
They're not listening to you.
My kids are great. I love my kids. You guys are awesome.
My kids are bad. No, I'm just joking. My kids are great. Both of them. They are. I love them.
They're also
I love y'all.
very different ages. Yeah. But yeah, so that's how I communicate with people. If I think of my daughter who, works, how would I feel about her superiors talking to her?
Yeah.
So I always kind of come from that perspective. But a lot of people don't care, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. And they don't think about it that way. They think about the result of what they need to get.
Yeah.
And they see the people part of it as tools. And I just use this person.
Right.
Emphasis on use.
Right.
I just use this person to get what I need.
Which may be successful. And a lot of people, I mean, that's psychopathy. A lot of psychopaths are in business and they're very successful at it. But, but that's not leadership, and you have to make a choice. It's kind of like, I don't know, leading from your heart.
Yeah.
It sounds cheesy.
As sappy as it sounds.
Yeah, exactly. But that's really what it is.
It's also got to be success on both sides. I have to be successful. And this is what I think sometimes makes it hard when people are trying to find their way, but they're not in a position of leadership. They're in a position of, they're the employee working for the leader or working with the leader, but there has to be success on both sides. My success is determined by the success of the staff.
Right.
And so, but a lot of times people only see one side of it, and that's my success.
Yeah.
And where I have to go. And you get the result, but then you have a group of people that feel like slaves and feel like they're just being used to get you your success, but their success doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I've worked with it, I've worked in it, I've worked for it, and it's, yeah, the business is growing, and yeah, but your turnover rate is high, and yeah, but everyone is exhausted, overworked, overwhelmed. You know, they just feel used. And so it's, yeah, it's in some regard playing the long game, but that whole leading with your heart, it really does mean something. Like I said, as sappy as it sounds, but that's it's what you're doing, right? You have genuine care for people.
Let me ask you this then. How do you feel your views of leadership have changed as you've gotten older?
I think wisdom, some of it is learning through mistakes, and some of it is just really setting, this is a big one, setting pride aside.
That's tough. Ego's big.
It is one of, I can't count how many times I have told people, look, don't factor in pride. This is not about pride. I'm literally trying to help you.
Yeah.
Put your pride aside. But it's two things I've
Now
realized.
that's about other people putting pride aside. What about you putting your own pride aside?
It's a learning process. And it is something I've had to just kind of gradually get better at. And the more I see myself as a student, the better leader I am. The more I see myself as a leader, the poorer leader I am. And so for me, the best leaders are your best students. And so for me, if I'm teaching someone, my number one objective is not to teach. My number one objective is to learn. And so when I lead with learning and not with teaching, I'm open-minded.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn from this person. They're giving me more information because now I'm an open vessel, receiving information, knowing how to navigate to you because we're already connected.
Right.
But I've seen a lot, and it's people in general, right? People like to talk and like to hear themselves talk, but they're not learning in the process. And so you don't have communication, you just have talking.
Right.
People are speaking, but no one is communicating.
Yeah.
You know, but it's over time.
That and you know, not just as you know, a leadership role, whether it's management or, you know, now for me in the classroom, but you know, that's a big lesson I had to learn with my family as well, with my kids. You know, my daughter is 21. She's an adult. You know, it makes me feel old. She's an adult, but yeah, so conversations in the relationship is different. You know, and I always knew that was going to happen, and I expected, and I, you know, support her and everything she wants to do, and you know, I don't try to be negative at all for things she does, but yeah, but those are lessons you have to maybe like change your approaches, and you have to learn new ways of listening. Because I've always been, you know, a people person. I can talk to people, but especially when it's someone you really care about, sometimes it's hard to hear certain things.
Yeah.
But I think it helps, and overall, it makes you a better person.
So how have you prepared? Because Monday is approaching, and
Right.
you're going to have an entire staff. I mean, how do you prepare?
Yeah, I think my class coming this year is going to be over 90 kids.
Oh my gosh,
It's a lot of kids.
Total,
yeah. Not per class.
I was like, what school are you?
LAUSD is overcrowded. It's not that bad.
Right.
It's not 90 kids per class.
They sitting on desk, leaning against walls.
Yeah.
No one has a book.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. It's not even the kids that is giving me any kind of trepidation or anxiety. It's really just learning the bureaucracy and the red tape of the school system that gets really tough.
Yeah.
You know, I still have, because I'm a new teacher, I'm just starting. This is going to be my first year. I still kind of have like imposter syndrome. Like they're going to walk into my classroom and be like, no, I'm sorry, you got to go. No, what are you doing? You have to leave. But, you know, as far as dealing with the kids, you know, I'm glad I already went through some teenage years.
Yeah.
They weren't bad. I mean, my daughter was great, but yeah, it's the leadership thing, right? So the heart. So why are we doing it?
Yeah.
So for me, the payoff or the reward, maybe when you're younger, it's okay. I want to be a boss. I want to make more money. You want to advance your career or anything, or something. But now it really is. It's more like being a parent. Like, I just want to teach these kids these things that I know, and hopefully they can use it and just see what they can do with it. I'm more interested in that, just watching them develop and grow and learn these new things more than, I want to be like the head teacher or I want to move into the, district office or something. Nothing like that. It's just, it really is just about the kids. I still want to get paid.
If you heard that, he doesn't need money. That's clear.
I still need money, but the focus is different. And I don't know that's because me getting older or what it is, because I'm in my 40s now. I don't know, but that's what I'm really looking forward to. Yeah. I mean, what about you? What are your goals and what do you want to move forward into?
Oh, so I have 3 things. My 3 life, I guess, professional goals.
All right, so number 1.
Number 1, and we're going to actually stop there because we're going to run out of time soon.
We are, okay.
And I think we need something to lead you to the next episode so that we actually have viewers and listeners on the next episode. So I will talk about the 3 things that I want to do in life, but you're not going to hear it on this episode. You're going to hear it on the next episode.
How dare you, sir?
To be continued.
Oh, okay.
It's like
part,
the 90s.
Part 2, I know.
90s television.
That's great clickbait.
But yeah, that's what this podcast is about, right? It's about life. It's about, navigating through life, and, we give it from a leadership perspective.
Yeah.
But it's a life podcast. And so you're going to hear everything from passion to purpose to communication to mistakes to everything under the sun you're going to hear in this podcast.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what we're here for. We want to help as many people as possible.
Yeah. So, please check out our website. It's leadingtheway.show.
It's episode 1. It's going to be, little hiccups here and there.
We'll get to it. Yeah, so follow us there. At some point we'll have some guests. So if you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can fill out a little contact form we have on the website. And, yeah. Join us next time.
All right.
To
be continued.
All right. Oh, boy. Thanks.